We'll start with the opening statement and then open the floor for questions.
Well, heck, we cut the deficit in half from last time. You know, I think the crucial part of the game was the last 3 or 4 minutes of the first half. You know, where it's a 7-point game, we have our chances against Connecticut, and then all of a sudden they go on a 13-0 run. And, you know, the thing about it during that 13-0 run, if we could have just scored a basket here and there to maybe slow them down a little bit. But, you know, when Dolson and I believe Stokes got in foul trouble, Brianna Stewart kind of took over during that stretch, and you saw her wanting to take over the game because, to be honest, they really weren't hitting shots. And you know, when she wants to take over a game, she can take over a game. I thought the second half, you know, minus the 3 possessions we had in our zone where we had some miscommunication, you know, we played them a 13-point ball game the second half. I thought we finished at least pretty decent, but you know, they moved the ball well. When you got your 6'6", being able to step out and hit shots, and you know, they're big players, they're post players, draw so much attention in the paint, and that leaves people like Hartley open for a second. And the thing about somebody like Bria Hartley, she doesn't need much room. She had a couple of tough shots today with people in her face, and you know, that's what great players do.
Do you notice any change in them with their lineup? With them losing a few players?
Well, there's no question they miss Lewis just because she's another outside threat. You know, when you have Dolson and Stewart inside, you can't extend your defense. We can't extend our defense out that much because we're so small inside. So we have to show help. So you got to kind of pick the lesser of the 2 evils. Who are you going to help off of? You know, with Lewis out, that at least gives you maybe 1 less option. And you certainly can't give Hartley or Stewart any room. You know, I think Stewart's one of the best shooters coming, both Hartley and Stewart coming off of down screens. I mean, the thing that they can do is they can catch and square up all in one motion. You don't see that. I mean, they're smooth.
With their short bench, was part of your game plan going in to try to, if possible, create some foul trouble?
Well, their big players do a good job, really, of staying out of foul trouble. They got in foul trouble today a little bit, but you know, it's funny because I've said this to a number of people. They may have a short bench, and most people look at that as an advantage. I look at it as a disadvantage because that means people like Brianna Stewart and Hartley, and normally Dolson plays 35 minutes a game, so those people play more. So it ends up actually working against you. The only reason Dolson didn't play as much is because she was in foul trouble. So, you know, our game plan was not to go at him inside because that's what really hurt us last time, is we didn't take those 12 to 15 foot open jumpers. Akil didn't even start looking last time to take those shots until, you know, we were down a number of points. So our game plan was to take those open shots, and our post players were going to get looks at the high post. Now, did I ever think Akil would take a 3 against Connecticut? No. I'm not sure she knew where she was on the floor.
Kiah Mays comes in as the leading scorer in the conference, and she led you with 13 points, but she shot 4 of 18. Gino Oriema talked about how they tried to rotate sort of a wave of guards, putting pressure on her. Overall, what did you think of Kiah's performance?
Well, I wish Kiah had played the whole game like she played the last 6 minutes. If you notice, Kiah had that bounce in her step the last 6 minutes. She didn't have that bounce at the beginning, and you know, you kind of know your players well. And if by Kiah's demeanor, I didn't like it at the beginning. It's not her demeanor, but I know her well enough to. It concerns me because she has a certain look about her. And I don't think, I'd be honest, I didn't feel like she was playing as confidently the beginning of the game, the first half. And she had to play a little bit more point guard today with Karina in foul trouble. She's not at her strongest when she plays the point. It takes away from her scoring. But, you know, I like having her, Gabby, and KP on the floor at the same time. You know, we needed to get more from Gabby. Even though KP, I think, had 8 points, she still has to be more consistent in her shooting percentage. You know, hey, bottom line is you got to be able to knock down outside shots. You know, not every shot they hit was an easy shot. Like, you go back to some of Hartley's shots on ball rotation. Hey, Gabby was in her face and she hits a three. I mean, the next step was to foul her. I mean, you got to be able to make tough shots against those teams.
Any more questions?
Early on, you talked about the size advantage they have inside with Dolson and Stewart. Early on, you actually your team was leading in rebounding for the first, I don't know, 6 or 8 minutes or whatever it was.
It's because they were all our offensive boards, right?
Right. How was your team able to do that, and then what adjustment did they make to then regain the lead and get the advantage on the rebounds?
Well, I thought we were, in that series you're talking about with the offensive boards, I actually thought we were pretty active on the boards, and you know, we weren't shooting a good percentage, and we had some long rebounds, but I thought they did a better job at the second half of blocking out and laying a body on somebody. It seemed to me that was a point of emphasis for them at halftime, which, you know, probably should have been, because we did. You know, I believe we had, was a 17 offensive board. So, you know, of course, they shoot 50-something% a game, and I think they did again today. So they're not going to get as many offensive boards. But, you know, I just think that they were more conscious of blocking out, and you know, it wasn't that we weren't as active. They just did a better job of keeping us off the boards.
Gino Auriemma said that when you went up to their place a few weeks ago, he thought maybe some of your players got a little shell-shocked when they got off to a fast start and then the game got away. This time he said your players competed harder, played harder, and maybe didn't have that same reaction because you'd already seen them, you'd already played them. Is that a fair assessment?
Very much. You know, our players up there were like, they were starstruck. You can see when we went into shoot around, their heads like rotated around the gym, looking at all their banners. And you know, as coaches, you know what's coming. You know it. You can talk to your kids about preparing for this and that, but it's kind of like freshmen. They have to go through a year of experience before they realize that the speed of play on this level is so much different than what they're used to. It was the same thing. You know, it's a faster play. It's a faster speed of game when you play Connecticut. And when you play the #1 team for the first time in their place, it's just you just have to get through it. And that's, I told our team before the game, I said, listen, I said, you have to understand, when you play somebody the first time, it's one thing, but the second time around, I'm telling you, it's totally different. You've done that. You've been there. You've been through it. And you know, I kind of use the analogy when I was a player, when I was at Old Dominion, we lost one game. Each year, my freshman and sophomore year, teams would come in, we'd kick them the first time. Second time around, it was a totally different game. So you knew it. And that's what I try to talk to our kids about, because, you know, they're human. Their biggest fear, we got our butts kicked up in Connecticut. The biggest fear was to compete and represent in our gym in front of our fans. So, you know, I know what they were thinking without even them having to say it.
Coach, what can you take away from this and use to move forward with these last 2 games coming up?
You know, you take away that 3-minute stretch that I talked about, and, you know, we were competitive for most of the game. We played a 13-point game the second half with most of their kids, you know, playing the whole game. And, you know, we just, I mean, there's a huge size difference, size advantage, but I thought we blocked out better overall as a team. You know, you know, I want our kids to know, first of all, you got to take care of the basketball. That part I'm not happy with, but that you can play with teams if you do certain things, if you take care of the basketball, if you block out, you know, you don't give them second and third shots. Their run started when we gave up an offensive rebound. Stewart took the 3, missed it, you know, got it out, and then hit that baseline jumper, and then they start that run. And, you know, I think our kids, you know, it's kind of hard to say when you get beat by 30-something. You got a little bit of a vote of confidence, but it was different today. You know, maybe if we had a chance to play him again, maybe it'll be even different at that point. But, you know, who knows?
Anything else? Thanks, guys.